Today's guest is from Melbourne, Australia. She converted to Islam in 1998. That was 22 years ago. She has Turkish and Syrian background, and she is an Australian Sign Language interpreter for deaf and secondary school children. Today's guest is Denise. Denise has a very emotional story to share with us about her conversion to Islam. She talks about her love for the hijab, and she gives us an in-depth description of how her parents were not agreeing and were very negative towards her conversion and towards her wearing the hijab. And she shares that after all the struggles, in the end, everyone was happy and the story ended in a peaceful way.
With the hijab, like I said, it's a really, really special thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given women. People, I mean, obviously the West look at it like it's a negative thing, but I look at it as something that is really, really beautiful and positive. And, you know, even at the beginning, I'm not going to lie, it is a little bit difficult because you do feel like you draw attention. Religion didn't really play a huge part in my life. It was just kind of like it was loosely based on good values. I decided to join in. So I decided to just go along and listen and to just, you know, ask heaps of questions. And so questioning about women and the position they had in Islam. Because, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. At that stage, I really thought that Muslim women were oppressed. I really, really did think that. One day with another brother who was a revert, and he was Australian, and that just blew my mind. Like, I had never come across a revert before. I didn't even know that you could do that because I just thought, you know, you're the religion of your parents, your family. And I remember just, subhanAllah, my first thoughts, you know, were, you know, you're Australian. You know, you basically living in the Western world, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, the world is in the palm of your hand. Why would you even consider Islam, this backward religion? Like, why would you even consider that? And I absolutely love the idea that with the hijab, you're basically covering all of that and you're forcing the person that you're speaking to treat you with respect. You're forcing them to take, you know, what comes out of your mouth and what is in your mind to be the most important thing. When you're with hijab, like, you do gain a lot of respect, you know, like, you don't get hit on, you get older gentlemen, for example, opening doors for you and things like that. Like, that's, you know, people, just the way that they speak to you is just with respect. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, and peace be upon you too. Thanks for joining us today, Denise.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so can you share with our listeners your background and what your life was like before you accepted Islam?
Yes, absolutely. As you said in your introduction, I have a Turkish Syrian background. When we were growing up, we believed in God, but it didn't have much more of an influence on my life. But I always grew up knowing that I was Alewi. And so for people who don't know what Alewi is, it's I guess I can say that it comes under the umbrella of Shia Islam. And people often, whenever I start off this way, you know, people always kind of say, well, isn't that Islam? Isn't that kind of like in the same category as Islam? There are some major differences, and I think that those differences is what, you know, separates them. The other thing that I will note is the fact that I grew up in a family that really held feminism to be quite important. My mum is a huge feminist. My dad, I think that for his generation, he was quite progressive, even though he had, and he still has, you know, some traditional Turkish, you know, views. He always prided himself with not, you know, making a difference between myself, my sister and my brother in terms of giving us the same opportunities and just kind of encouraging us to do the best that we can in our lives, you know. So naturally I grew up to be a very strong feminist. Women's rights were very important to me. And that, as well as the fact that, like, my personal, another thing that people should know before I start my story is that yeah, I've always loved to learn. If there's something that, I mean, even though I'm very passionate about what I believe in, um, I, I think that I really love being challenged intellectually. So if somebody presents something that I don't know much about, I've always been a person who has not been scared to challenge my own views or to challenge their views for that matter, to just, generate a discussion and learn more about that. So I think that that was like, that provided the, the backdrop, I guess, to my conversion to Islam. So basically, like, my experience growing up was just like, I guess, any teenager living in a Western country. So, like I said before, religion didn't really play a huge part in my life. It was just kind of like it was loosely based on good values. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we believed in God, and then we were always raised to treat people with respect and treat people the way you want to be treated, and don't lie or cheat, and those sorts of things. Just trying to be make morally correct decisions in your life, but it wasn't actually based on anything. Yeah.
Okay, so can you go back, way back there when you started researching, or you were trying to,
Yeah.
trying to find out about Islam? Why did you start doing that?
Okay. Well, so basically, there are a few things that have kind of like, I guess, that were happening at the same time that kind of like led me in that direction. And that, yeah, that led me to eventually becoming a Sunni Muslim, alhamdulillah. At the time, it was first year uni, and I was doing a double degree, and one of my subjects was philosophy, as you do. And to be honest with you, I kind of, like it was the first time that I'd ever considered those really big questions, like, what's the purpose of my life? And, how was the world created and all of that stuff. So it was the first time that I was actually thinking about it. And so, like I said before, I love researching things. And so not only did I purchase the books, on the book list, but I remember going into the uni bookshop and just buying every other book that I can find that compared all the philosophers and what they believed. And I just wanted to do a bit more reading. So I guess, like, I look back now, and that was kind of like, it was almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was kind of, getting my mind ready for those big questions. At the same time, I had mentioned my brother before. He's 2 years older than me. Personality-wise, we're a little bit different. But at that time, maybe because we were so close in age, we clashed quite a bit. We noticed, basically, I think that where it started was that we noticed that my brother started changing. So he was kind of, your average teenager going out with his friends. My parents didn't know. My mum was always worried, where is he? Who's he with? And then he started staying home a lot. And then we noticed that he started praying. And that was something really foreign for us. My parents started freaking out because obviously they knew, hang on a second, this is kind of like a symbol of, Sunni Muslims. It's not of us. And so there were a lot of discussions going on in my family, and I was kind of like listening in on a lot of those discussions. And I remember there was one time where my brother was talking to my mum about why we need to pray 5 times a day, and how each prayer wipes out the sins of, whatever minor sins that you've committed, during, between the prayers. So he was trying to explain that to him. And I think that, being the younger sister, I was being a little bit of a smart aleck. And I remember questioning him, and I interrupted, and I was just like, I still don't understand. So you're telling me, that somebody, and I remember how ignorant, like now I look back and I think, oh, it sounded so ignorant, but I remember I was just trying to be a smart aleck. And so I was kind of like saying to him, so you're telling me that a Muslim could commit the worst crime and he'll be forgiven? I don't understand that. And then you've got people like Mother Teresa who, she's basically a saint, and you're telling me she's not going to go to paradise. That doesn't make sense to me. And I remember when my brother turned around and he looked at me and he just said, you know nothing about Islam. Go and learn about it first and then come and talk to me. You know nothing about religion. Like, so you can't even have this debate with me. And I remember how insulted I was, because I thought to myself, how dare you silence me like that? And so I kind of like, I guess I was a little bit stubborn. And so I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to learn about this, and I'm going to, I'm going to learn this Quran better than you, and I'm going to come up with counter arguments, and I'm going to throw it in your face. And may Allah forgive me, but that's kind of like where it started. At the same time, so they're two things, and then the last thing that was also happening at the same time is that one thing that I haven't mentioned is that my older sister, who's 5 years older than me, her husband is Lebanese, so he comes from a Sunni family. At that time, I remember that his mum was really, really unwell. She had stage 4 breast cancer, and he was really worried about his siblings and how, like, he's the oldest male in the family, and he was already married, and so he was really worried about, I guess, preparing them for, what was to come, basically. And subhanAllah, so he organised these Islamic classes so they could ask questions and learn more about what happens after you die. And yeah, that was just basically, set up for his siblings. And so while all this stuff was happening, and I had this discussion with my brother, and my sister was telling me that these classes were running, I decided to join in. So I decided to just go along and listen, and to just, ask heaps of questions. And so I found myself going to these classes, and I think that they were run by brother Bilal Asad. A lot of people know who he is. And mashallah, may Allah truly reward him, because I look back now and I think to myself, subhanAllah, he was so patient. He was so patient with all of us. And so, yeah, so these classes, pretty much they were running regularly, once a week. And I found myself, like, it's really, really interesting when you're in situations like that. Like, when you're comfortable with anything, you don't really, I guess, how can I say this? I think I'll say it. Basically, whenever you're uncomfortable, I'll say that. Yeah, I'll do it that way. Basically, whenever you're uncomfortable with whatever situation, they're the times that you learn the most about yourself, because you realize that certain things come up, or you might respond to something in a certain way, and it makes you learn something about yourself that you didn't know before. And I look back now and I think to myself, like, I found myself, looking at Brother Bilal and just thinking to myself, like, I was questioning everything that he said, and I was questioning whether or not it was authentic. I didn't think that it was. And looking back now, I think it's because, I don't know, I just thought to myself, like, what could you possibly teach me that I couldn't learn in a university, or, in a textbook or something like that, which is, quite an arrogant approach to have, I think. Alhamdulillah, I was quite young, and, I thought I knew everything. But yeah, I guess it's like the metaphor, how people say that a glass is, is the glass half empty or is it half full? Are you a positive person or a negative person? I think that there's another element to that we don't consider, and that is the fact that, people are so concerned about what, like having a full cup. People don't want an empty cup. They want it to be a full cup, but they don't actually consider, like, what it's filled with. And so I think that, in certain situations like that, when someone is really questioning your belief system or the things that you hold on to that you think are true, it takes a really brave person to have a look at that and consider, why do I believe what I believe? Like, where did that actually come from? Yes, my cup is full, but where did it come from? And I think that was, a bit of a challenge. That was the first challenge for me, because I realised that I wasn't afraid to step in and say what I thought in terms of, questioning about women and the position they had in Islam. Because, I'm going to be honest with you. At that stage, I really thought that Muslim women were oppressed. I really, really did think that. And so I would question things. I'd be like, well, why do women have to wear the hijab but men don't? Why do I have to, I've got this perception that I can't speak out, I can't have an opinion. Why not, kind of a thing. And obviously this is all, tied into stereotypes and the media and, whatever I thought that was the truth. But, the brother would always come back with, okay, so how do you know that? Like, did you read that somewhere? Or, like, is that from the Quran? Did you read it? And of course I hadn't. So it was kind of like, it really allowed me to take account of myself and just realize, yeah, you know, like I pride myself on having a full cup, but where did I actually get that from? Like, for example, if you were to fill up a cup from, you know, like let's say a clear flowing stream, it's very different to if you left the cup out in the rain and you just let it fill up that way, you know, and or I guess, you know, take the metaphor further. If you were to actually fill it up, you know, from a still murky, you know, river or something that was full of cholera, for example, that's going to get you sick straight away. And I think that there's so much information and so-called knowledge out there. There's so much information that we are bombarded with from everywhere that naturally it's confusing. You know, people hardly stop and think, you know, is this worth absorbing? Is this worth changing my opinion for this? Just because you hear it, you know, through the media, just because somebody tells you what they think, you know, that's not the truth. That's very different to something that you can authenticate, you know, something that's from a book, for example. So yeah, so sorry, back to my story. So basically, through these classes, what I found was that subhanAllah, Brother Bilal, he was very, very patient. And so I guess it was almost like he was, you know, like before you actually fill up that cup, you know, you have to empty what's there if it's not beneficial. So it was almost like through every answer that he gave me, it was like he was taking out spoon by spoon, like a tiny little, you know, like a bit of what I had. He was working on it little bit by little bit by little bit. And he allowed me the room to you know, to question anything that I was concerned about. And there, subhanAllah, there was an answer for everything, you know, and it always made sense. It basically always made sense. And so, you know, like for example, I remember when I was asking about the hijab, you know, I'd say something like, oh, you know, why do women, if women are free to, you know, if we value women in Islam, why do they have to wear the hijab? Why do they have to be covered up and men don't? And he would say, sister, you know, you can ask any question that you want, but just ask it in a way, you just need to ask it in a way that's a little bit more respectful. You know, what is the wisdom behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, instructing us to wear the hijab, rather than saying why is God saying that, you know? So slowly by slowly, what I realized was, you know, I was genuinely interested to know the answers rather than just, you know, basically, you know, trying to be right all the time. And then there was one time, I guess, throughout the course of that year, because, you know, yeah, I think that we were going to classes for about a year. But during that time, I remember Brother Bilal had showed up one day with another brother who was a revert, and he was Australian. And that just blew my mind. Like, I had never come across a revert before. I didn't even know that you could do that, because I just thought, you know, you're the religion of, you know, your parents, your family. And I remember just, subhanAllah, my first thoughts, you know, were, you know, you're Australian. You know, you basically living in a Western world, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, the world is in the palm of your hand. Why would you even consider Islam, this backward religion? Like, well, why would you even consider that? But the way he was speaking, subhanAllah, was so beautiful. And he just like, you know, the character, the humbleness that he had, I remember thinking, he knows something that I don't know. There's something that he knows that I have to learn. And at that moment, I think that everything was just like, I mean, I guess, you know, going back to my metaphor, it's almost like it was probably at that moment that my cup was empty. So I was ready to fill it up with good, you know, with the right knowledge. And so you know, I didn't have any reservations in asking the right questions and really listening for the right answers, you know. And subhanAllah, for me, I think that when we were exploring, you know, women's rights and what the role of a woman is, that was something that I really, really wanted to learn about in Islam. And it wasn't just like, you know, a one question, one answer kind of a thing. You know, I spent a lot of time on that. And I spent a lot of time at the same time, not just the classes, going away and whatever books that I can get I could get my hands on, whatever Islamic books that I can get, you know, I purchased them all and I went home and I just kept reading and reading and reading. And that was the best thing that I could do. So then I had more questions and I think that I was just what I found to be absolutely beautiful, and probably what made me decide that, subhanallah, this religion is the truth, and this religion is for me. And even, I want to wear the hijab, I guess, is the explanation of why we wear hijab, and just the whole, subhanallah, when just the level of a woman in Islam, the fact that she's respected for who she is rather than how she looks, or what she can do to please a man, I think that because I was always, I was very, very passionate about women's rights before. And I think that, you look at society and you realise that there's so much pressure on women. I mean, it's not to say that men don't have pressure too. Men have their own pressure, but I think that everyone will agree that there's a special type of pressure that's placed on women. And they're expected to be so many things simultaneously. And, this whole Madonna whore dichotomy that is placed upon us, from birth, that you basically, you're expected to act like an angel and be an angel, but at the same time, society expects a woman to look pretty, to act in a certain way, to basically be there to, to please man. And I had a real issue with that, because it's like two extremes, and it's like, where's the space to just be yourself? Where's the space to be intelligent? And, women have, just like men. I mean, we've got personalities, we have a mind, we have opinions. I mean, when do we get to focus on those things? It's always about what she's wearing, or, how she speaks, or what she does. Everyone's always criticizing that. And so I guess when the hijab was explained to me, and, the fact that by wearing the hijab and wearing loose clothing, essentially, like, subhanallah, you're protecting yourself. I mean, not only are you identifiable as being someone who is connected to Allah and you have a relationship with Allah, but everything you do and everything that you are and every deed that you perform is only for Allah, and that's it. And it was just so perfect, because I thought, doesn't that make more sense? Rather than, wherever you go and whoever you come across, there's always judgment. People will always judge you based on the way that you look, even before you speak. Are you wearing the right brand? Does something look flattering on you? Are you fat? Are you skinny? Are you this? Are you that? Are you pretty? Are you ugly? None of that matters. If you're a good person and you strive for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives you that beauty, and it's from the inside out. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just on a superficial level. And I absolutely love the idea that with the hijab, you're basically covering all of that, and you're forcing the person that you're speaking to treat you with respect. You're forcing them to take, what comes out of your mouth and what is in your mind to be the most important thing that they should, I guess, judge you on, because they can't, like, as soon as they see you, they can't judge you on anything else. They don't, you're no longer reduced to just a physical thing. And I absolutely love that idea. And for me, I guess that it was at that moment that I thought to myself, subhanallah, it's, if I've ever come across a definition of feminism, this is it. This is it. This is really beautiful. And shouldn't Allah be the one to judge us when He's got access to our intentions as well? And He knows, every time you've tried really, really hard, and then you've stuffed up, and then you've fixed it up, and you try again, and you keep trying again. And it was just perfect, because I thought, subhanallah, like, I'm a person that's striving hard, and there's so much in me. So, it's not just the physical. So yeah, and I had decided at that point, that I have to wear hijab, but I knew how difficult it was going to be, because it's so visual. That was going to cause a lot of problems with my parents. And so by this stage, like, it had been about a year. During the time that we were attending these classes, it was easy, I guess, to regularly attend them, because my parents were overseas at that time. And then they returned. And so there was a period of time that, I kind of like kept it secret. I didn't tell them about it. I did start changing, and I started praying, but it was kept secret, because I didn't want to cause any problems.
Can I step in there and ask you a question?
Yep, go for it.
So at this point, had you already converted yet, or you're still thinking about it?
No, I had converted. But it was kept secret. Like I didn't come out and say it.
Okay. And how long was that
Oh,
after
no,
you
no, no,
started
hang on,
taking?
wait. No, I, sorry, I did come out and say it, but it was in that class. So it was with the brothers and sisters that were there. So in that community, absolutely, I did say it out loud. But it wasn't around my family. No.
Okay. And how long did it take for your family and society to find out?
I think that it was kind of like a gradual process. Like I said, I think that I was learning over the span of that year, and I was attending Islamic events. So every time I would go to an Islamic event, I mean, I wouldn't tell my parents where I was going, but I would go to an Islamic event and I would just practice wearing the hijab. And so, in a way, like people wouldn't know who I was, but then I guess as you start doing that, people then, someone will see you and someone will know. And I knew that that was going to happen. So I realized that I had to let my parents know. Otherwise, they were going to hear from someone else. And so probably, I don't know, 6 months or something.
Yeah.
It was probably about 6 months. And then I realized that, also because of the fact that I really, really wanted to wear the hijab, I had this burning desire to wear the hijab. Like I couldn't stop thinking about it. And every time I'd go to sleep, like I would literally, cry myself to sleep every night because I thought, I'm going to be judged for this. I know that I want to wear it, but I'm too scared. I'm just too scared about what's going to happen. And then I got to a point, I guess, like I said, I was attending these classes, I was doing things in secret. I'd tell my parents that I was, going to one of my friends who are non-Muslim. I'm going to their house when really I'd visit an Egyptian sister and we'd sit there, learn about Islam, And so I had gotten to a point where I was so frustrated and I just thought to myself, what could they possibly do? Like I'm scared, but I don't know, like it can't be worse than what I'm doing to myself. I'm living in turmoil. And so I remember it was a Saturday. I woke up and I decided that, I'm going to tell my parents that I'm going to wear hijab. And that was probably the clearest indicator about how my faith had, changed. And so I approached my mum and I said, I'm just letting you know that on Monday I'll be wearing the hijab to uni. And my mum, the colour from her face drained. And she said, go and tell your father. And so that made me even more scared. So I went to my father and I told him the same thing. And he just said, no, you're not. And I said, Dad, I just want you to know before anybody else knows, but, I'm ready to wear the hijab. It's really important to me. And he said, no, you're not. And then no matter what I said, his voice started getting louder and louder and louder. He just kept screaming at me and he's just like, no, you're not. This isn't who we are. And he got really, really frustrated. And, with my dad, he can go from 0 to 1,000, decibels in 2 seconds. So we kind of we left it at that and he didn't talk to me for the rest of the weekend. Then on Monday morning, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I woke up and, I spent a lot of time in my bedroom getting ready. And then when I left my bedroom and he saw me, it just kind of we got into a massive argument. He sat me down. He said, you're not going anywhere till you sit down. And then basically he was just, there was a massive lecture on how this is the wrong path and they're brainwashing me and how I could have gotten to this point and how I'm a very intelligent person and yet, I've allowed them to take away my rights as a woman and, all of that. So basically, essentially, I was sitting there for about an hour just listening and then I got up to go to uni and I was in tears. So I was crying the whole way and I got to uni and basically that became the norm, after that. After that day, I was at home for another year and I would probably have to say that every single day of that year was so hard. There was new challenges every single day. So I pretty much, I think it started off with rage. So it started off with my parents in shock and disbelief and, having arguments every time. I came home from school, went to school, in the mornings, it was exactly the same thing. And I remember I got to a point because I was so afraid that my dad might do something. So I had a hijab in my bag. I had a hijab in my car. I kept some hijabs in the prayer room at uni because I just thought, well, what happens if he tears it? What if he pulls it off my head? What am I going to do? And so there was only once I would have to say that he did do that. He was really, really upset. I was washing my clothes and I hung them out on the line. And basically he got really, really upset. So he tore them all. And then I realized that I couldn't wash my clothes at home. So then I had to wash it somewhere else.
So can I stop you there while we're on that point of, negative parents? So a lot of our listeners are, they're thinking about this situation, like, should I convert to Islam and what will my parents do? So, what advice would you actually give to them about this problem and how should they move forward?
Okay. Well, I guess, firstly, it's subhanAllah. It's the fact that everyone's situation is different. So that's the first thing to acknowledge. I think that one of the biggest, I guess the most difficult thing to do, sometimes we compare ourselves to other people. Don't do that. Your test has been selected by Allah, especially for you. And so therefore, subhanAllah, know with certainty that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing you, he tests those that he loves, but he will never ever take you to something. He will never bring you to a test and not give you, the strength to get through that test. And I look back now and I think, that year was really, really hard. It was really, really hard. But subhanAllah, it's amazing along the way. It's like every time I felt so broken that I couldn't go on, it's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would put something in my way, or he would allow me to meet someone to just give me enough hope to keep going. And that's what Allah does. Every time we go through a test, Allah will give us, just enough to keep going. And so I guess the more practical advice that I would give is the fact that, if you know any Muslims, make sure that you see them regularly. That's definitely a strength. Keep reading, because you find that, in terms of particularly the story of the Prophet ﷺ, the struggles that they went through during that time, there's a lot of it that is, I found, like with me, I found strength in that because a lot of that was parallel to the, the struggles that I was going through. Like when the whole community found out about it, when I'd see someone, for example, in the shopping centre, I knew they were all talking about me. I knew the entire community, the Alawi community, was talking about me. But when they saw me, the look on their face was like, oh my God, it's actually her. I can't believe it, so-and-so's daughter. And the look on their face, and then subhanAllah, it says it in the Quran, how they kind of like wink and nudge each other. They make fun of you. And so, I guess the best thing that I can advise is that, if you do have Muslims around you, draw on their strength, draw on the strength from the teachings, from the Quran, and keep reading, just keep reading. But for those people that, subhanAllah, there are some people who convert to Islam and they've got no one around them. I think that we're really fortunate that we do have a lot of access to Islamic material through the internet. So, that's really important too. So I think that back then, like, we didn't really have that then, like in terms of YouTube and, all these lectures online and everything. But now it's like, if you don't have anyone, then that's a really important thing to do. But basically to keep your strength up. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it possible for someone who's just coming to Islam to take it slowly, to take it step by step, not force it? Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Okay, so that's a really important point, and I'm glad that you brought that up, actually, because I'm sorry if it came out, in a way. I think that me looking back on my experience, it's like, I guess it's just like this happened and then that happened and then that happened. But I guess that's the other bit of advice that I will give is, definitely take it slow. And the reason why I say that is just because, it's a big step. It's a massive step, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it's a big step. And so I think that the issue with, I guess, trying to take all this knowledge and wisdom from people around you who have grown up in, Muslim families who may have not gone through what you've gone through. I think that even though people mean well, sometimes they don't realize that they harm you just because they don't understand. You know, they mean well, but they can't actually relate to you. But I think that what I will tell my brothers and sisters who, you know, who are going through a lot of hardship in that situation is to take it slow, because every little step that you take is massive in the eyes of Allah. Like, it's not, don't think that that's not gonna, you know, go rewarded. That's not gonna, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not gonna, you know, overlook that. And so you should definitely go at your own pace. If you're not ready to do something, don't do it. If you need to get more knowledge and information on that, you know, it's perfectly okay. In fact, it's not just it's perfectly okay. It's that's how you should do it. You know, focus on one thing at a time. You know, if you're going to start off with reading, like, just focus on reading and understand. Just understand is so important. And then when you do start practicing, you know, just step by step, little things, you know, learn about prayer. You know, if you can't do 5 prayers a day, you know, like, just focus on doing what you can do just for a little while, you know, like, it's just everyone's situation is different, and every tiny little thing that we do counts. So, yeah, everyone's journey is different.
Yeah, thanks for that, Denise.
That's
So
okay.
can we go back to your story? You were mentioning how you
Yes.
were had to hide your clothes and wash them. So it
Yeah.
seems like you had a lot of moral support from your brother, which is really good for you. But when you're looking back at it all, do you think you
Yep.
handled it the right way, or would you have done it a different way?
That's a really good question, but it's also a very hard question to answer. And I think the reason why I say that is because when things become tense between you and the people that you love, and it's such a foreign situation, it's hard to navigate sometimes. So it's really hard to say, was it the right thing to do or not? Because at the time I thought it was. The only thing that I guess I would change, if I could change it, because in terms of my passion, I probably would make the same decisions, because it meant so much to me. And I think that sometimes it's really difficult when you clash with others. It's, you know, it's one thing to turn around and say, oh, you should explain it, take the steps to explain it. Sometimes it just depends on who the person is. Sometimes that actually makes it worse. But I do believe that if I had have gone slower, if I had have taken my time and not changed so quickly, Allahu Alam, but perhaps it wouldn't have been as hard. Like, maybe my parents wouldn't have reacted so strongly. Maybe they thought that it was all happening a bit quickly because, you know, they didn't know that I was reading for an entire year. They didn't know that I was asking all the questions. And, you know, I kind of went through this evolution, you know, internally, that they didn't know anything about. So I kind of, like, the first that they heard of it was when they saw me praying. And then shortly after that, it was like, I'm going to wear the hijab. So, yeah, so maybe, I don't know, like, I think that had I given them a little bit more time, I guess, to get their mind around it, then yeah, it would have been easier.
Okay, and so at this point, the point we are at now in the story was how long after you converted?
Okay, so this was kind of, it was probably, I don't know, 1.5 years in, because it was, I guess, that first year, and like I said, during that time, when did I convert? I don't know, it's hard to say. So during that first time when I was doing a lot of research, going to those classes, that was when I converted. And then I spent a year at home, you know, like, it took me, like I said, I was researching, and then it took me a year to wear the hijab. So this was probably in a 2-year period.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just butt in there and
Yeah, go for it.
bring up a message that you sent me the other day. You said that the hijab gives the identity of a strong woman. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think that it definitely does, and it definitely does for me. And I think that, look, everyone has something that they're, I guess, that really stands out for them in Islam. And for me, it was always the hijab, like I said. I think that living in a society where there are so many conflicting expectations, and I guess, you know, there are so many categories that you're supposed to just fit into as a woman, and it's really, really hard, because most of your life, I think that, like, the message that we are given, I guess some of those, expectations are so extreme. You spend your entire life, trying to fit in with what society wants you to be. You've got to be a good parent, you've got to be a good mum, you've got to be a good housewife. You've got to be able to cook and clean. You're meant to be, working as well, earning, having a really good income, being this independent woman as well, conquering the world as well, like all these things. And it's all just like, how can one person possibly do all of that stuff? And of course, you're meant to do all that while looking really, really pretty and appealing and all of that stuff. So it's really, really, it's really exhausting. With the hijab, what I absolutely love about it, and the reason why it's so empowering, and for me, it's like I said, it's the most perfect definition of a strong woman. And the reason why is because you kind of like let go of all of that. You let go of all of that, and really, you go at your own pace, and you allow yourself to be you. So the strengths that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, because everyone's got a different personality, everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses. And we can't do everything. It's not like you can do everything in Islam, but there are certain things that you can do. And there are certain things about your personality that make it easy for you to make a difference in this world. And so you're able to do those things like while being really, really proud, and just kind of like it makes me really proud to step out into the world, and for everyone, to be identified, first of all, to be identified as a Muslim, someone who's following Allah, a servant of Allah, and the fact that I'm trying really, really hard. And so knowing that, it kind of like gives me the freedom to let go of every other expectation that people have of me, and, kind of form that for myself. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope so.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that. And also earlier you talked about how the hijab protects a woman. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, of course, it goes without saying that, we're told that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advises us to wear the hijab so you can be identified as being a believing woman and you're not harassed. And that's one of the biggest things. And look, I'm not going to go down that path where, I think that a woman should be able to, or not just a woman, but a man, anybody, if we lived in an ideal world, you should be able to be yourself completely and dress the way you want to dress, and nobody should harass you at all. So I'm not going to say that, if a woman dresses in a way that is provocative, or, she wears a mini skirt or something, she's asking for it. I mean, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. It's not true. Every woman should be treated as a person, regardless of what she's wearing. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in an ideal world where everybody is going to treat you with respect. And that's one of the biggest things. Like, I just feel like that's one of the biggest protections that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the woman. Yes, we are very, like our beauty is inside and out. But it kind of, like I said, it forces people to look at you with respect. And that's definitely what I have found. I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't come across discrimination, people who've been upset because of what they think that I represent. But when you wear hijab, like you do gain a lot of respect, like you don't get hit on, you don't get, you get older gentlemen, for example, opening doors for you and things like that. Like that's, people, just the way that they speak to you is just with respect. It is with respect. And so, I mean, I'm speaking in general here, obviously. I'm not trying to simplify it, like oversimplify it. But it definitely does protect you. And yeah, I guess that, you kind of, it gives you more purpose as well. So in that respect, internally, it protects you as well. It definitely shapes your identity, and that's a massive thing. And like I said, you kind of, if you've got that connection, or you build that connection with Allah, then I guess, some of these things that are still difficult in society, and, all these challenges that we have in our world, it's not the fact that they're not difficult anymore, but I guess you can stand a bit taller when you have to face them. So, yeah.
Okay, and a lot of our listeners out there, well, not a lot, but some probably have a confidence problem in society. Do you think the
Yeah.
hijab can help them with this problem?
I think that it's a little bit difficult to answer that because of the fact that I think that there's a number of factors which impact on that. Definitely your personality. I think that when you were talking about your confidence, um, sometimes, I mean, one thing that I definitely found about myself, even though I'm an extrovert and I was always quite passionate, I look back at that time and I could easily say that I lacked confidence as well. And let's face it, as human beings, we always lack confidence sometimes, depending on the situation where you're at. Um, but definitely, subhanAllah, I think that, like I was saying before, when you have a purpose, when you feel like you belong, and basically when you have a higher purpose, when you feel like you're doing something that actually matters, and subhanAllah, that's your little thing. Like, you can't do everything in Islam, but you can try to do the things that you know how to do. With the hijab, like I said, it's a really, really special thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given women, you know. People, I mean, obviously the West look at it like it's a negative thing, but I look at it as something that is really, really beautiful and positive. And, even though at the beginning, I'm not going to lie, it is a little bit difficult because you do feel like you draw attention. So for people who, maybe suffer from lack of confidence, maybe it's a little bit, more difficult, I guess, because of the fact that they feel like they're attracting attention that maybe they don't want. But I think that once you start feeling more comfortable within yourself, you realize that attention is actually not a bad thing. And it's, and sometimes it actually is a great thing because, you meet more people. It gives you an opportunity to talk to people and get to, get to know them, get to share your story. And sometimes, so many times people, will come up to me and ask me questions. Oh, look, I'm really, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound rude, but, why do you guys wear that? Or, whatever. And so it's not always negative. It's actually, I've found that over the years, as I've gotten more comfortable with myself, I think that, you start kind of radiating that type of confidence and then people will approach you. But yeah, definitely it kind of like, as it starts shaping your identity and you realize that you're doing something that you've got a greater purpose. Absolutely. It does build up your confidence and makes you stronger. And obviously, like, if you've got people around you that support you with that, that kind of helps a lot. Yeah. But yeah, so how's your relationship with your parents now? Alhamdulillah, it's actually a lot better. It's definitely a lot better. I think that because I'm older, and I think that with me too, I kind of I went through a divorce, and after I went through that divorce, I think that my parents kind of realized she really needs our support now, which was really nice. And so our relationship kind of got a lot better. And also because, like with parents, as they start getting older, they want to be looked after. They go through fears. And so I guess that's been a really bittersweet but really beautiful opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me as well. Like with my dad, he's got some medical issues, but it's come to a point where I'm the one that he will ask to take him to his appointments and to manage his medications and things like that. So it's really beautiful, But yeah, so it is a lot better. It's definitely. So that's the thing with most of these stories, is that at the time it was very hard and fiery, but in the end everything turned out fine. The parents forgave, and the children became happy in the end. And same thing happened with me, and probably with most of the converts and reverts, they had this crisis or tension with their parents, which had to sort itself out in the end. So, I mean, anyone out there that's worrying about it, then just talk to some converts and see how they did. And you'll see that, the majority of the cases are everyone ended up with a happy story. Yeah, I think that that's really important to say as well, but perhaps I didn't mention that in my story, but that's really, really important too, because sometimes when you're going through something, you can't you can't anticipate what's going to happen, 10 years down the track or 20 years down the track or whatever, like you stress out and you think that that's going to be the worst and it's always going to be that way. But it isn't. It actually isn't. Sometimes I'm sure that my parents look back at that time and they think to themselves, maybe I could have done something different. It was just because it was a knee-jerk reaction. They were scared, and that's why they were acting the way that they did. But then as time goes by, nothing stays the same. Things have to change and they kind of like evolve and it just becomes more organic. You just kind of like phase into this more organic relationship where as you get to know each other better, and I guess, for your parents, when they look at you and they realise, you know what, if I give you, they give you enough space and then they realise you've actually become a better person, I think that they're more likely to just kind of like ease off and think, I'm glad that I've still got my daughter or my son, and I've got that relationship where so many people don't have that. And it's got nothing to do with religion, like some of their kids move out and they live a life that's independent of their parents and they never get to see them. And so, yeah, you begin to appreciate the things that you do have in life, and somehow you get to a point where you do respect each other, and then things get a lot better.
Yeah, everyone's situation is different. Yesterday I was doing an interview with Tanya, and her mother told her that if she becomes a Muslim, she will kill herself.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And it seemed like, it seemed to be a serious threat. So Tanya had to, she had to cancel her event where she was going to convert. She had to tell everyone, I can't convert now. There's a problem at home. And still to this day, she's already converted to Islam, but she hasn't told her parents yet. So yeah, this is the that's the other scale of the story, is that everyone has a unique situation and they have to deal with it and just ask Allah for the best.
That's right. SubhanAllah. So if you don't mind me asking, I'm really interested to know your story. Like, what's your background? Sorry, am I allowed to ask?
Yeah, that's fine. I grew up with my mother is Muslim, Indonesian Muslim, and my father is Australian Christian. And so my father would not allow religion in the house as we grew up. So my mother was free to practice Islam. She prayed and she fasted and so forth. For me, I wasn't allowed to do anything. My mother wasn't allowed to teach me Islam, and he didn't teach me Christianity. So I was free to believe what I wanted, and I had to find Islam for myself at the age of 24.
Oh, wow. Wow, SubhanAllah. And how did that happen? I mean, was it because of the fact that you were trying to learn about your mum's belief, or was it something completely independent of that?
Yeah, it was mainly because of my mum. So I always believed in God, but I sort of had my own religion. And I went through life as a normal, Aussie kid doing all of those things, and it was too much. My life became, too much. So I had to leave that life, and I went back to my parents' house and was with them, and they were helping me. And my mum just said, why don't you just try Islam? Because, you look like you've got a lot of problems, just try Islam. And I said, yeah, why not? So I did that.
Oh, mashallah. But then how did your dad respond?
Yeah, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. My grandmother basically disowned me from the family.
Wow.
But over time, my father, he's happy now. And actually, he converted to Islam not long ago. So
Oh,
it's
wow,
a good story at the end of it for everyone, I believe.
Oh, wow, mashallah. And that's the thing, subhanAllah, you just can't know. You don't know. Especially if you've, if you've been fighting something for a long time, and something I didn't include in my story, but, like you just said about, like, I guess, the extended family, they have a reaction too, and all of that. And you just kind of, subhanAllah, you don't know what journey Allah is going to take you on to bring it back. And that's the thing. Like, even now, even though it's eased up, for example, but like my daughter, for example, just before Ramadan, she decided to wear hijab. And, that was kind of confronting for my parents to kind of like start those discussions again. but obviously it's a lot easier this time around. But, alhamdulillah, like there are times when you sit there and you just think to yourself, I feel like I've been fighting this my entire life. But then, it's, I guess sometimes Allah gives you these beautiful little things that you just go, wow, subhanAllah, it was all worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like you were saying, like, I can't even imagine what that would be like if my parents, actually, obviously we always make dua for them, but like, I can't imagine what it'd be like if they, before they pass away, for example, if they ever kind of like came to our path. Like, I can't even imagine that. But, it's something that we all hope for and make dua for. And, it's, excuse me, like, alhamdulillah, like for your dad. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, it is amazing. So, hopefully this story can go out there to anyone thinking about accepting Islam, and having doubts about this hijab problem, that, just try and find some converts, talk to them and talk to them and see how they dealt with it. And, the problem is not so bad at the end.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It'll always get better. And like I said, you think about the worst possible situation, but then it also gives you an opportunity to realize how strong you are too. Like Allah always gives you strength and you always get through it. And there's always a silver lining. I know that sounds really, really cliche, but there's always a silver lining. It always gets better.
Okay, Denise, thank you so much. We're running out of time now, so we're going to have to call an end. So, but before we go, can you just give our listeners your final advice on what they should do about, what should be their game plan about converting to Islam? So they're thinking about it. That's the reason why they're listening to this podcast. So can you give them some parting advice?
Well, I guess I can say that basically, I mean, when we think about all the things that, could go wrong and all the things that are barriers along the way, sometimes you just need to step back and you need to remember why you're doing it. You found something that is so beautiful and that is so special, and don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to leave you and it's going to let you go. So be strong. I guess follow the truth and follow your truth, and I guess create your own story. Like, don't be careful of taking like it's interesting because I'm saying this, I'm giving advice, but what I'm about to say is be careful when you're taking other people's advice, and it's just because your story counts, and sometimes you just have to kind of take it step by step, and subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy along the way. So yeah.
Anything else?
I think that no, because I'm just kind of like thinking, there's like a million things going through my head, but well, I guess a really important thing to say is reach out to people. Don't go through it alone. And it's like if you are going through a difficult time, and going through any type of change is really, really difficult. So it always makes it easier when you've got someone to talk to about it and somebody to encourage you. So talk to people, talk to other reverts, talk to Muslims, and subhanAllah, they'll give you the strength that you need to get through those, every stage. And inshallah, it will get better. It will definitely get better, inshallah, Sometimes when we're stuck in the middle of something, that's all we can see. But stand up for what you believe in and take it slowly, and it will get better, inshallah.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. Thanks for sharing that with us, and really enjoyed your story today. And it always, brings a light to my heart when I hear the someone's conversion story.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. And hopefully you can come back onto the show for another episode.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, inshallah.
Okay, Denise. So may the peace and blessings of God be upon you, and also to all our listeners out there. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.